It's interesting to see recent developments in the news and continued anecdotal evidence suggesting that female-owned enterprises and women entrepreneurs have difficulty accessing financial capital, especially. And this is a little bit concerning because we would, on the one hand, be led to believe this is possibly no longer an issue. There have been a number of policy initiatives and other legislative initiatives that have sought to make, frankly, the workforce more diverse and more equal. And so at face value, we would be led to believe that we wouldn't still be observing some of the challenges that are noted for women entrepreneurs and female-owned enterprises trying to access financial capital. There's a sociological or social psychological explanation that seems to drive a lot of these effects. And this is the idea that women do not necessarily fit the stereotypical entrepreneur role. So role congruity theory, which has to do with kind of what men and women in society are expected to sort of look like and act like, has really sort of, in some ways, the evidence suggests, has really shaped the field of business, the field of entrepreneurship in such a way that our sort of stereotypical images of what the successful business person is really associated with what we would consider to be stereotypically male or masculine-like traits. So if we think of a lot of examples that we use in classrooms or in the popular media about very successful business people, we inevitably always go back to the Elon Musks of the world, the Steve Jobses of the world, and so on. And so it's this image of this agentic, individualistic, risk-taking person is sort of the stereotypical picture of a very successful entrepreneur. And so when we match that up against sort of this idea of role congruity theory, where men and women are expected to behave in two very different ways in society, and those who do not behave according to those stereotypes are kind of penalized. What ends up happening is that with women entrepreneurs and female-owned enterprises, they kind of suffer a little bit of a penalty because they are acting in a way that is sort of inconsistent with what we expect women to act like, at least societally. I'm not personally saying that I advocate for this at all. And so when it comes to an activity like seeking financing, which is sort of associated with wanting to pursue growth, risk, individualism, that is not necessarily in line with society's views of what women are expected to look and act like. And so inevitably, we have biases potentially creeping into the evaluation processes for women entrepreneurs and female-owned enterprises in a way that they are potentially penalized when it comes to getting financial capital. And so I think as we move forward and as we start to see more women getting involved in high growth industries, tech startups, these sorts of enterprises that are just naturally more high growth, we're probably going to observe fairly comparable performance between female-owned enterprises and their male-owned counterparts. And there is some evidence that suggests that firms that have a greater proportion of women in leadership roles actually perform better. So for instance, I'm thinking of a meta-analysis that did not look at entrepreneurial firms, but looked at larger corporations. And what was shown there is that corporations who have a greater proportion of women on the top management team typically make more effective decisions and in the end up performing better. And it probably speaks to the advantages in general of diversity on founding teams, if we're to bring it back to the entrepreneurial context, and also the value that women can bring to the table, frankly, when it comes to leading a business.